Hey guys, I just wanted to talk to you guys about the summary and synthesis essay. You guys have turned in your rough draft and you will be turning in your final draft soon. So I wanted to talk to you guys about it. So this is 15% of your final grade. And I wanted to say you guys have done a great job. I know that this is a difficult task doing this online. We can't discuss the articles together. So you guys have really done a great job. I gave everyone a describe, evaluate, suggest. So take a look at that. You have individual feedback. I didn't mean for it to come off as harsh, but I am trying to tell you guys how to get the best grade you possibly can. So some of them, there are little things that are going to keep you from getting a C. So if you don't have a works cited, if it's not an MLA format, if you don't have a writer's memo, I didn't mention that because that was not required for the rough draft. But these things will keep you from passing. So I wanted to make sure to tell you that. Even if you have these things, I want to make sure you get your best grade. And so I still gave you feedback. Even every single person got a suggest, no matter what their paper was like. There were a couple of papers that I consider to be A's already. But I gave them a suggest because there's always a way to improve. So I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the trends that I'm seeing. So one of the trends I noticed, okay, in your first paragraph, this is a 1 to 3 or 5 paragraph length essay. In your first paragraph, you should have a brief description of GMOs. What is the conversation? Why is there a debate about it? What are your two articles? You need to introduce your two articles and introduce your two authors. Who are these authors? What are their credentials? Why should we listen to them? Where were these articles published? That is your context. You need to have your context for the articles as well. And explain the connection between the two articles. Why did you choose these two? Why is it an important viewpoint to show the debate, or is it representative? Why is it important to show the debate? So a couple of the trends I noticed for the first paragraph is there was a missing connection between the two articles, or there was a missing conversation, description of the conversation. So there was often GMOs are rejected by many people, but there wasn't an explanation as to why, so I wanted a little bit more. What is it about GMOs strike people as wrong? So make sure to include all that in your first paragraph. Also, one thing, okay, and then when you get into your second and third parts are summaries. So then you're going to get into the summaries of the articles. You want to say what the author's claim is and how the author supported that claim. So, like, for example, going over, let's see, Scarpelli's argument. Okay, so Scarpelli's argument was about the GMO labeling laws, right? This was written in response to a 2016 bill about federal law about labeling GMO products. This was his exigence. This is the reason he wanted to write this article, because he felt that if you label GMOs as GMO, people will just automatically reject it because there is this stigma against it. There's this debate about it, and there's not a lot of information. So he argues that we need more information, not a GMO label, because that doesn't help inform anyone, actually. So if you want to go through his argument, so that is his claim. So he talks about scientists have not educating the public on GMOs. So what he says is that it reduces reliance on resources like land and water. It reduces pesticide, herbicide, and fertilizer usage. It improves nutrition. So these are all things that scientists have failed to show consumers. He uses two examples, and he has it under a heading about BT corn and golden rice. So if you mention one of these, you should mention both, right? Because this is important enough to have its own heading and its own section. So I would say, even though it's an example, you should include it in your summary. Also, so people are rejecting corn and the golden rice. The consequence is people rejected the golden rice as an aid to famine. So potentially people died of starvation rather than eat GMO crops that are supposedly healthy, are fine. So this is, you want to maybe mention this consequence, like this, it was rejected for use in a famine. So these are the types of information you need to include. Those two, BT corn and golden rice, are very important. The fact that scientists haven't educated people about the potential benefits, the fact that labeling is not going to help people understand and really what people need is more information so they can make a better choice. So these are the types of things you want to include. Remember that your audience has not read these articles. I've read these articles, but I'm not your audience. Your audience is someone who has not read these articles. You have to give them the gist without the gist of the article without them having read it. So those are the types of things that you want to include. So another trend I noticed, sometimes there was like details left out, sometimes the claims weren't clearly stated. A lot of times there was inserted opinion. We don't want to insert our opinion in this. So honestly, when it comes to GMO, the reason I chose GMO is because I hoped nobody really cared all that much about it. Because I don't care. To be honest, I don't have a stance. I think, yes, people should know more about it. That's all. I am not pro or anti-GMO. I'm not trying to convince you of anything. I simply want to look at the conversation. I chose GMOs because I hoped we wouldn't care enough about it so we could take a step back and look at the arguments and how they're being made and not really want to contribute to it. We're observers here. We're not contributing to this conversation. Last semester, I did video games, and I really wanted the students to get into it, right? Because people play video games. But the problem was everybody wanted to engage with the debate and contribute to the debate over video games, and we're not really doing that. We are just looking at what people are saying. We are looking, this course is about argument. We want to look at how people make argument. So don't really take a stand. One way to avoid this is to use attributive tags. So instead of saying something like, scientists have failed to educate the consumers about the potential benefits of GMOs, you would say, Scarpelli points out that scientists have failed to do this. See, when you add that attributive tag by saying Scarpelli says, you're showing your reader that it's not your ideas. It's Scarpelli's ideas. And that's the point of this essay, to summarize other articles, not to put our own opinion in it. So try to take those out. Also, I ask you why you chose these articles in the first paragraph. And I do want you to say why you chose these articles, but I don't want you to say, I chose these articles because of this. I want you to say this. These viewpoints are representative of this side and this side, so they should be shown, not I want to show them. We want to take out first person, I, we, you also, second person, in academic articles, academic essays. So try to take that out. Let's see, what else? So that leads to actually some quotes. It's up to you if you want to include quotes. The prompt said include quotes sparingly, if at all. So you don't want a ton of quotes. You want maybe one per article, not even a full sentence, right? And it's only going to be one that's going to be really, it's going to be really conveyed well. You really want to show that. When you do your quotes, you want to integrate them with that attributive tag. Scarpelli says, comma, quote. Scientists have failed, blah, blah, blah. So you need to make sure to integrate your quotes. That's what it's called, by adding an attributive tag. So your quote's not just floating, starting with his first words. Also, you need to make sure that you cite. So if you don't cite using MLA citation, you can't pass if you don't have the citations. So in this, you have the end of the quote without punctuation, right? Even if it's the end of the sentence, you don't have a period there. You have a quote, and then you have a space, parentheses, author's name. If there is a page number, you have a space, page number, no commas. If there isn't a page number, then you just have the author's name, like Scarpelli, parentheses, Scarpelli, parentheses, period. And that's how you quote for MLA. Like Kwasinski, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, had page numbers, right? It was like 1187 through 1189. So if you're doing Kwasinski, you will say parentheses, Kwasinski, space, 1187, in parentheses, period. No commas or anything. So I added, there's an announcement with several screenshots on how to do MLA citation. Make sure to look over that. It also includes how to do a works cited page and how to do a heading and page numbers. Make sure you have all of this done the same way. Some of you had headings, but they were not MLA headings. Make sure you do an MLA heading. So look over that announcement. If you have questions, please send them in, and I'll do my best to answer them as soon as possible. Going back to quotes. After you quote, make sure to paraphrase. You have to say it again in your own words. You do this for two reasons. People interpret quotes differently than you. You need to make sure you wouldn't tell them how you're interpreting it, why it's supporting what you're trying to say. So those are the two reasons. Because people interpret it differently, and you want to say how it supports your argument, whatever you're saying, claiming to be true. So make sure to paraphrase your quotes. Don't have a quote and just have the end. You need to, again, say, which means blah, blah, blah. Paraphrase it in your own words. This is the reason we learn paraphrasing and how it is going to be used in the summary and synthesis essay and rhetorical analysis, because we paraphrase our quotes after we say them. Let's see. So then, look over your MLA. The last thing is that some people had conclusions. And so some of these conclusions had information that should have been included in the first paragraph, right? Like there was commentary about the two articles together, about the connection between the two articles and what they contribute to the conversation. I know that this is ingrained that we should have a conclusion, and I totally get that. I prefer having a conclusion to have it just, cut off at the end. But if you take that connection and put it in your first paragraph, it makes that first paragraph, which is supposed to be where the connection and the conversation and all that is, it makes it a deeper, more profound argument, description of the conversation. I would rather you guys just cut off at the end of the second summary than have a conclusion that's dividing your conversation into two sections. Put it all in the first paragraph. So those were the biggest trends that I noticed. Let's see. So, also the writer's memo, getting to the writer's memo. We didn't do that for the rough draft, but we're gonna do it for the final draft. So if you look over it, it says that you need to look into 3 different choices that you made when you're writing this. Now, I didn't want to say this. I didn't want to add more work on the rough draft. Also, because it's extra work and because you might not know fully all the choices that you've made. Because it was for the first draft, now you guys have feedback, individual feedback from me and other students, so you can go back and change now and revise. Now, when you're revising, these choices will become more and more apparent. So one choice, obviously, which 2 articles to choose, why, like what, and you already kind of explained that in your connection. So you could like kind of like say it again in a different way. Why did you choose these articles? Did you choose to quote? Why or why not? What did you choose to quote? There, in the prompt, which is under Unit 2 and under the assignment submissions, where you'll submit it, it gives you several leading questions on things that you need for the writer's memo, or potential questions, potential choices that you could talk about. It also mentions that it's 300 words minimum. If you don't have a writer's memo, you can't get a passing grade. If it's 150 words, 200 words, you can't get a passing grade. Try to make it 300 words. So a couple of more announcements. I am extending the deadline a little bit. So instead of Monday at midnight, you have until Tuesday at midnight. So it's already in Blackboard. You're going to submit it in the Blackboard under the assignment submissions. So you'll have your summary and synthesis essay. On a separate page, you'll have a works cited. So it's in the same document, but you'll go down to a separate page where it's on its own page by itself. And then you'll have the writer's memo under that on its own page. Upload that by Tuesday night at midnight. Then we have Wednesday off. It's a holiday. Don't forget, though, we do have some reading to do for Monday. We're entering into the rhetorical analysis. So there is chapter 1. And there's chapter 1, there's a PDF, and there is the assignments, submissions, and just the description of the next section. So the next section is the rhetorical analysis. Now remember, when we enter a section, it's going to be really reading heavy in the beginning and writing heavy in the end. So keep on top of the reading. There is a lot, right? So make sure to look at the course schedule for your reading, or under the week 5, week 6, week 7. Now, this is 5 weeks, so it's half the semester. It's a big deal. We'll try to, it's a lot of analysis that we need to get into. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. I think I said everything that I wanted to say. Remember that the late policy, let me read the late policy for you guys that maybe might have missed it on the syllabus. So all major projects must be submitted by the due date. If you have trouble submitting your work for any reason, email me, include a copy of your completed assignment along with an explanation of the technical problem prior to the deadline. If I get an email without a completed assignment attached to it before the deadline, it will still be counted as late. If I get it with an attached assignment after the deadline, it's late. So this is to show me that you did it before the deadline. It's just issues that are keeping you from from submitting it. Regardless of even if you email it to me, this doesn't mean that you are don't have to submit it to Blackboard. You still have to submit it to Blackboard because that's where it's graded. So that's just proof that you finished. It's not an alternative submission method. Okay, so here's what I really wanted to talk about. Late major projects will automatically receive a letter grade of 10% penalty. So the first week is going to be 10%. The second week is going to be 20%. 2 weeks, you'll get a 0. So, by the way, for those of you, and there are 2 who have not submitted mediated values to Blackboard, to the assignment submission, you have until Monday for that before you get a 0. Remember that all major projects must be completed in order to pass the class. Assignments cannot be accepted after the course has ended. So, even if you get to the point where you get a 0, you still have to submit it in order to pass the class. Even if you have, an 80 at the end of the semester, it's a requirement. So, um, let me know if you have any questions. I'm really proud of you guys of the quality of work you've done so far in the summary and synthesis essay. Keep it up. Don't forget to revise based on all the feedback. Look over the prompt one more time. Those little things like writer's memo and works cited and title, those things will keep you from passing, but it's like the extra little things about content that'll get you the higher grade, right? Like the difference between a C or a B or maybe even an A. So let me know if you guys have any questions. Thanks.